They said they were gonna tow my tractor off my land. Clipboard guy stood there, smug as sin, quoting some HOA regulation like he was judge and jury. His buddy in the orange vest stood behind him with arms crossed like backup muscle. I was elbow deep in hay that morning, just trying to get ahead of the storm rolling in, when I heard their truck pull up. Thought maybe it was a delivery or someone lost. But nope. Just two guys who thought they could boss a rancher around with a made-up rule book and a bad attitude. "This is private property," I told them. "You passed a no trespassing sign a quarter-mile back." But clipboard guy just tapped his pen and said, "We got complaints. Your tractor's visible from the community ridge. It's an eyesore." I straightened up, wiped the sweat from my forehead, and stared him down. "You threatening to tow my tractor off my own ranch?" He nodded, and that's when I stepped aside and said, "Then I suggest you tell that to my brother." They turned, just in time to see him stepping out of a black truck in full U.S. Marshal gear. Calm. Dead serious. "Let me back up a sec. My name's Rachel Morgan. I'm 42, a widow, and I run the Morgan Ranch about 5 miles outside Silver Hills, a fancy gated neighborhood that showed up 3 years ago. Our family's worked this land for 80 years. My brother Nate is a U.S. Marshal. Quiet, steady, but if you cross a line, he doesn't blink twice before putting you in cuffs. He's helped me run things since my husband passed, me, my 2 kids, and a barn full of animals. Now, Silver Hills and their HOA folks, they've always been nosy. Left a complaint once about the color of my barn door. Another time they said my goats were too loud, and I'm not even in their HOA. But it was mostly harmless. Until this happened, few days before the showdown. I noticed a white pickup parked across from the barn. 2 guys inside scribbling on a clipboard. I waved. They didn't. Next morning, I found a typed paper shoved into the side gate. No signature, no letterhead. Just, "Notice of violation. Unauthorized industrial vehicle visible from community roadway." Said the tractor had to be moved in 24 hours or towed. I crumpled it and laughed. Thought it was a prank. Turns out, they were serious. They came back the next day. Same 2 guys. This time, they walked right onto the property like they owned it. I was already filming by the time I stepped out. Told them they were trespassing, that this was ranch land, unincorporated, not under HOA. But clipboard guy, Ray, claimed Silver Hills had extended visual compliance jurisdiction. Basically, made up rules meant to scare folks. That's when Nate pulled up. He'd dropped by to return a fencing tool I left at his place, walked right up, looked them in the eye, and said, "You're not authorized to be here, and if you try to tow anything, I'll escort you off in cuffs." Ray tried to argue, but Nate held up a single finger. Silent. Firm. "One more word," he said, "and you're done." They left, but that night they came back with tow trucks. I was sipping chamomile tea on the porch when I saw the headlights. 2 big red trucks and an SUV pulling up slow, like they were trying to sneak in. Kids ran inside. I grabbed my phone. Tow guy steps out, all polite. Says, "We're here to collect a green John Deere, violation of local zoning." Before I could cuss him out, Nate arrived. Again, perfect timing. He stepped between me and the trucks, flashed his badge, and calmly told them to back off. The sheriff pulled in right after. Saw the paperwork they had. Completely bogus. Not signed, not sealed, not even legal. They backed down. For now. Next morning, my door was wide open, tractor gone. My heart dropped. Chain was snapped, lock bent. Fresh tire marks in the dirt. Nate was there in minutes. "This was a clean job," he said. "Too clean." Then he made a call and told me to get dressed. We drove straight into Silver Hills, pulled up to a fenced-in construction site, and sure enough, there it was. My tractor, parked behind a stack of fake stone tiles, half covered by a plastic tarp like no one would notice. A guy in a golf cart tried to block us. Nate didn't even slow down. Cut the lock, walked right in. Binder lady showed up again. High heels, headset, all attitude. "You're trespassing," she snapped. Nate just held up his badge and said, "You stole private farm equipment. That's felony theft." She smirked. "You'll never get a judge to care. It's just a tractor." Nate didn't flinch. "Then you'll enjoy explaining it to the Department of Justice." I climbed into the seat, turned the key, and that machine purred like it never left. We drove it right out of their fancy neighborhood. Dirt flying, engine growling, every window watching. But the worst part wasn't over yet. Later that night, we found a note on the porch, typed, unsigned. "We warned you. This is war." And it got worse. At 2:30 a.m., our cameras caught a hooded figure sneaking toward the barn with a gas can. Motion lights snapped on. Alarm blared. Nate was already outside. Caught him before he could run. Kid couldn't have been more than 17. Shaking, terrified, muttering, "They paid me. Said leave a message." The sheriff took him in. And that's when we realized this wasn't just harassment. This was a full-on land grab. Turns out the HOA had submitted a zoning expansion proposal that included our ranch, without our permission. They wanted our land, and they thought they could bully us into giving it up, so we fought back. Nate worked with the sheriff. Our lawyer, Leah, filed injunctions. I went door to door, talking to neighbors. Heard stories, just like mine. One woman had been offered money to stay quiet. Another had her barn accidentally bulldozed. We took everything: photos, threats, fake notices, video footage, and handed it all to the county board. The day of the hearing, the room was packed. Reporters, ranchers, even Silver Hills residents who'd had enough. Leah played the video of the bribe, the drone footage, the audio of Ray threatening me. You could hear the whole room holding its breath. The board voted, unanimously, to block the annexation, terminate all enforcement attempts, and grant our ranch permanent protection. 2 days later, we planted new signs on the fence line. Private ranch, not under HOA, no trespassing. I stood on the porch that night, coffee in hand, watching the wind ripple through the fields like nothing had ever touched them. But I knew better now. They weren't just after a tractor. They were after control. And they picked the wrong family. If someone came after your land, your peace, your legacy, what would you? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear it. Because this isn't just a ranch story. This is about standing your ground when no one else will.